The smell hit Zara first. Not the usual garbage smell she was used to after 3 years of picking through trash bins, but something different. Something that made her stomach turn and her heart race with worry. It was the smell of expensive cologne mixed with vomit and desperation. She almost walked away from the large dumpster behind the fancy hotel. Her cart was already half full with bottles and cans, and she had enough to buy food for the next 2 days. But something made her look closer. Maybe it was the way the morning light caught on what looked like expensive fabric, or maybe it was the soft sound of labored breathing coming from inside. Zara had learned to trust her instincts during her years on the streets. They had kept her alive when she aged out of foster care at 18 with nothing but the clothes on her back. Now, at 23, those same instincts were screaming at her to investigate. She climbed up on the edge of the dumpster, her worn sneakers finding grip on the metal rim. What she saw made her gasp. A man lay unconscious among the garbage bags, his expensive suit torn and stained. His dark hair was messy and there was dried blood on his forehead. But he was breathing. "Hey," she called softly, then louder. "Hey, mister, are you okay?" No response. She could see his chest rising and falling, but his face was pale. Too pale. Zara had seen enough people in bad shape to know this man needed help soon. She looked around the empty alley. It was barely 6 in the morning and the city was just waking up. No one else was around. She could call 911, but she knew how these things went. The police would ask questions she couldn't answer. They might even think she had something to do with whatever happened to this man. But she couldn't just leave him there. Zara made a decision that would change everything. She climbed into the dumpster, careful not to step on the man, and checked his pulse. It was weak but steady. She shook his shoulder gently. "Come on, wake up," she whispered. "You can't stay here." The man's eyes fluttered open for just a moment. They were green, she noticed, the color of sea glass. But they were unfocused and confused before closing again. "Okay, we're doing this the hard way," Zara muttered to herself. She was small, barely 5 feet 4 inches, but she was stronger than she looked. Years of hauling heavy bags of recyclables had built muscle on her thin frame. She managed to get the man's arm around her shoulders and half carried, half dragged him out of the dumpster. Getting him to her place was the hardest part. She had to abandon her cart and recyclables, which meant no money for food today. But she couldn't leave him. Something about his face, even unconscious and hurt, seemed familiar. Not like she knew him, but like she should help him. Zara lived in a tiny studio apartment in the worst part of the city. The building was old and falling apart, but it was all she could afford with her irregular income. She managed to get the stranger up 2 flights of stairs, stopping every few steps to rest and make sure he was still breathing. Her apartment was small but clean. She had a mattress on the floor, a small table, 2 chairs, and a hot plate. Not much, but it was hers. She lowered the man onto her mattress and covered him with her only blanket. In the daylight coming through her window, she could see him better. He was handsome in a clean-cut way that spoke of money and privilege. His suit, even dirty and torn, was expensive. His hands were soft, not the rough hands of someone who worked with them. This was a man from a different world. Zara cleaned the cut on his forehead with a damp cloth and checked him over for other injuries. Besides some bruises and the head wound, he seemed okay. But she was worried about how long he had been unconscious. She made a cup of tea with her last tea bag and sat in her chair, watching the stranger sleep. What had happened to him? How did he end up in a dumpster? And why did she feel so drawn to help him? Hours passed. The man slept deeply, occasionally mumbling words she couldn't understand. Zara dozed in her chair, jerking awake every time he moved or made a sound. It was late afternoon when he finally woke up properly. His green eyes opened slowly, blinking in confusion at the unfamiliar ceiling. When he turned his head and saw Zara sitting nearby, he tried to sit up quickly and immediately winced in pain. "Easy," Zara said, moving to help him. "You hit your head pretty hard." The man looked at her with confusion and something else. "Fear. Where am I? Who are you?" "You're safe," Zara said gently. "I'm Zara. I found you in a dumpster this morning. You were unconscious." He tried to remember, his face scrunching up with effort. I can't remember anything." His voice shook. "What happened to me?" Zara sat back down, studying his face. "I was hoping you could tell me. Do you remember your name?" The man was quiet for a long moment, his hand touching the bandage on his forehead. "Jake," he said finally. "I think my name is Jake. But everything else is blank." "Jake," Zara repeated. "Okay, Jake. You're going to be fine. Head injuries can mess with memory sometimes, but it usually comes back." Jake looked around the small apartment, taking in the sparse furnishings and the clean but worn appearance of everything. You brought me here? Why? Zara shrugged. Couldn't leave you in the garbage. Besides, you looked like you needed help. But you don't know me. I could be dangerous. Are you? Zara asked simply. Jake considered this. I don't think so. I don't feel dangerous. He paused. I feel lost. Something in his voice made Zara's heart ache. She knew what it felt like to be lost. Well, you're not lost anymore. You're here and you're safe. Jake looked at her for a long moment. Why are you helping me? Really? Zara was quiet, thinking about her answer. Because everyone deserves help when they need it. Because I know what it's like to be alone and scared. And because. She paused, not sure how to finish. Because something tells me you're worth helping. Jake's eyes filled with tears. He quickly blinked away. Thank you. I don't know how I'll ever repay you. You don't need to repay me, Zara said. Just get better. As the sun set outside her small window, Zara made them both a simple dinner of soup and bread. She only had enough food for one person, but she shared it gladly. Jake ate slowly, still seeming confused and weak. I should go to the hospital, he said. Or the police. Someone must be looking for me. Zara nodded. Probably. But it's late now. Rest tonight and tomorrow we'll figure out what to do. Jake looked at the mattress, then at Zara. Where will you sleep? I'll take the chair. It's fine. No, Jake said firmly. You saved my life. I'm not taking your bed too. They compromised, with Zara taking the mattress and Jake making do with cushions on the floor. As they settled down for the night, Jake spoke quietly in the darkness. Zara? Why were you going through garbage this morning? Zara was quiet for so long that Jake thought she might have fallen asleep. Finally she answered. I collect recyclables. Bottles, cans, scrap metal. It's how I make money to live. That's how you make a living? It's honest work, Zara said a little defensively. I didn't mean anything bad by it, Jake said quickly. I'm trying to understand. You're helping a stranger, sharing your food, giving up your bed. But you're struggling yourself. We all struggle, Zara said simply. That's no reason not to help when you can. Jake was quiet for a moment. You're amazing, you know that? Zara felt her cheeks warm in the darkness. I'm just doing what anyone would do. No, Jake said softly. You're doing what you would do. That's different. As Zara drifted off to sleep, she couldn't shake the feeling that finding Jake was going to change everything. She just didn't know if it would be for better or worse. Outside, the city hummed with life, but inside the small apartment, two people from different worlds found unexpected comfort in each other's presence. Neither knew that this was just the beginning of a story that would test them both in ways they never imagined. Jake lay awake long after Zara's breathing became steady and peaceful. He touched the bandage on his head and tried to remember anything about his life before waking up in this room. But there was nothing. Just emptiness where his memories should be. The only thing he knew for certain was that the woman sleeping nearby had saved him, and he was going to spend every day trying to be worthy of that gift. The morning sun streamed through the small window, waking Zara from the deepest sleep she'd had in months. For a moment she forgot about the events of the previous day. Then she heard movement and remembered Jake. He was sitting up carefully, holding his head. Good morning, he said quietly. How are you feeling? I should be asking you that, Zara said, sitting up and stretching. Any pain? A headache, but not too bad. And I feel clearer somehow. Jake looked around the room again as if seeing it for the first time. You really live here? Zara bristled slightly. It's not much, but it's home. I didn't mean it like that, Jake said quickly. I just meant, it's so small. How do you manage? You make do with what you have, Zara said, getting up to put water on for tea. Besides, I'm not here much during the day. I'm usually out working. Jake watched her move around the tiny kitchen area. She was graceful despite the cramped space, clearly used to living in such tight quarters. What time do you usually start work? Early. I like to hit the good spots before other people get there. Zara glanced at the clock. I'm already late today. Because of me, Jake said with guilt in his voice. It's fine. One day won't hurt. But Zara was thinking about her empty stomach and the fact that she had used the last of her tea and soup yesterday. Jake seemed to read her thoughts. You're worried about money? I'm always worried about money, Zara said with a laugh that didn't quite hide her concern. It's the nature of the business. Let me come with you today, Jake said suddenly. Zara turned to look at him. What? I can't remember anything about my life, but I'm not helpless. I can help you work. It's the least I can do. Jake, you were unconscious yesterday. You need to rest. I feel fine, Jake insisted, standing up to prove his point. He swayed slightly but stayed upright. See? I'm good. Zara studied his face. He looked determined and she had to admit she could use the help. It's not easy work. And it's not the kind of work you're probably used to. How do you know what kind of work I'm used to? Zara gestured at his clothes. Even dirty and wrinkled, his suit was clearly expensive. Lucky guess. Jake looked down at himself. I could be a waiter. Or a funeral director. Or maybe I stole these clothes. Despite everything, Zara laughed. A funeral director? It could happen, Jake said with a grin that transformed his whole face. Come on, let me help. I need to do something useful. Against her better judgment, Zara agreed. She found an old t-shirt and jeans that were too big for her but might fit Jake. They had belonged to a boyfriend from 2 years ago who had left them behind when he moved out. These should work, she said, handing him the clothes. Jake held up the t-shirt. Perfect. I think I'm ready for my new career in recycling. An hour later they were walking through the city streets, Zara pulling her cart behind her. Jake walked beside her, asking questions about everything. So you just take bottles and cans to a recycling center? Mostly. Sometimes I find other things too. Scrap metal, old electronics. You learn to spot valuable things other people throw away. Jake looked around at the bustling city. How long have you been doing this? 3 years. Since I aged out of foster care. Foster care? Zara nodded. My parents died when I was 10. Car accident. I bounced around different homes until I turned 18, then I was on my own. Jake stopped walking. I'm sorry. It's okay. It was a long time ago. But Zara appreciated the genuine sympathy in his voice. They reached the first stop, an office building with dumpsters behind it. Zara showed Jake how to spot recyclables and what to look for. He was surprisingly good at it, finding bottles and cans she had missed. You have good eyes, Zara said, impressed. Maybe I was a garbage man in my previous life, Jake joked. As they worked, Jake proved to be helpful in unexpected ways. He could reach high places Zara couldn't, and he seemed to have an instinct for organization, sorting their finds efficiently in the cart. You're really good at this, Zara said as they moved to their next location. It's kind of like a treasure hunt, Jake said. I'm enjoying it more than I expected. By lunchtime, they had collected twice as much as Zara usually managed alone. She was starting to feel hopeful about making some decent money for the first time in weeks. I'm hungry, Jake said as they took a break in a small park. Is there somewhere we can get food around here? Zara looked at their cart, calculating how much money they might make. There's a hot dog stand on the corner. But we should probably wait until we cash in the recyclables. Jake frowned. You haven't eaten yet today, have you? I'll eat later, Zara said, but her stomach chose that moment to rumble loudly. Without saying anything, Jake walked over to the hot dog stand. Zara watched in confusion as he talked to the vendor. A few minutes later he came back with 2 hot dogs and 2 sodas. How did you pay for that? Zara asked. Jake held up a $20 bill. Found this in my pocket. Must have survived whatever happened to me. Jake, you should save that money. You don't know when you'll need it. I need it now, Jake said simply. To buy lunch for the person who saved my life. They ate in comfortable silence, sitting on a park bench and watching people walk by. Zara couldn't remember the last time someone had bought her a meal. It felt strange but nice. Can I ask you something? Jake said after a while. Sure. Do you ever think about doing something else? Besides this? Zara was quiet for a moment. I used to. When I was younger, I wanted to be a teacher. But you need college for that, and college costs money I don't have. What would you teach? Elementary school. I love kids. I think I would have been good at it. Jake looked at her with interest. What stopped you from trying? Reality, Zara said with a shrug. You can't chase dreams when you're worried about keeping a roof over your head. Maybe that's not true, Jake said thoughtfully. Easy to say when you're not the one living it. Jake was quiet for a moment. You're right. I'm sorry. I don't know what my life was like before, but I'm guessing it was easier than yours. It's not your fault, Zara said. We all have different circumstances. They spent the rest of the day working together, falling into an easy rhythm. Jake proved to be not just helpful but good company. He had a way of making even the mundane task of sorting garbage seem interesting with his questions and observations. Look at this, he said, holding up a discarded business card. This guy threw away a perfectly good card. Wonder what his story is. Maybe he quit his job, Zara suggested. Or got fired. Or started his own business and doesn't need the old cards anymore. Jake examined the card more closely. It's a marketing company. Says here they specialize in brand development and strategic positioning. You know what those words mean? Jake paused, looking surprised. I guess I do. That's weird, right? I can't remember my own name, but I know about business terms. Memory is strange, Zara said. Maybe you worked in business. Maybe. Jake tucked the card into his pocket. Mind if I keep this? Something about it feels familiar. As the sun began to set, they made their way to the recycling center. Zara was nervous about how much money they would make, but Jake seemed confident. We did good work today, he said. I can feel it. At the recycling center, the worker weighed their haul and handed Zara more money than she had made in a week. Her eyes widened at the bills in her hand. This is amazing, she said. Jake, this is more than I usually make in 5 days. We make a good team, Jake said with a smile. On the way home they stopped at a grocery store. Zara was hesitant about spending money, but Jake encouraged her to buy real food instead of just the cheap basics she usually survived on. You need to eat properly, he said. Especially if we're going to be working together. Are we? Zara asked. Going to be working together? Jake looked at her seriously. If you'll have me. At least until I figure out who I am and where I belong. That night, they cooked a real dinner together in Zara's tiny kitchen. Jake seemed to know his way around cooking, another clue about his mysterious past. You're good at this too, Zara observed, watching him season the chicken they had bought. I guess I must have cooked before. Though I don't remember learning. As they ate, Jake asked more questions about Zara's life. She found herself opening up to him in ways she hadn't with anyone in years. There was something about him that made her feel safe and understood. What's your biggest dream? Jake asked over dessert, ice cream they had splurged on. Besides the teaching thing? I guess. I'd like to have a real home someday. Not just a place to sleep, but a home. With furniture that matches and pictures on the walls. Maybe a garden. That sounds nice, Jake said. What else? A family, maybe. Not necessarily kids of my own, but people who care about me. People I can count on. Zara paused. What about you? Even without your memories, what do you want? Jake thought for a moment. Right now? I want to remember who I am. But also, I want to be useful. I want to matter to someone. You already matter, Zara said quietly. Do I? You helped me make more money today than I've made in weeks. You bought me lunch when I was hungry. You made me laugh. Zara met his eyes. You matter to me. Jake felt something shift in his chest. You matter to me too, Zara. More than I can explain. As they cleaned up the dishes, working side by side in the small space, both felt a connection growing between them. It was more than gratitude or obligation. It was something deeper and more complex. Jake. Zara said as they were getting ready for bed. Yeah. I'm glad I found you. Even if this whole situation is crazy. Me too, Jake said. Whatever brought me to that dumpster, I'm grateful for it. Because it brought me to you. That night, as they settled into their makeshift beds, both felt a sense of possibility they hadn't experienced in a long time. Zara felt less alone than she had in years, and Jake felt like he was exactly where he belonged, even if he couldn't remember anything else about his life. Neither of them knew that Jake's presence in her life was about to become much more complicated. Outside, the city hummed with its usual energy, but inside the small apartment, two people were discovering that sometimes the best things in life come from the most unexpected places. Jake lay awake listening to Zara's breathing, feeling a peace he couldn't remember ever experiencing before. Tomorrow would bring new challenges and new questions about his identity, but tonight he was content to be exactly where he was. 3 days had passed since Jake started working with Zara, and they had fallen into a comfortable routine. Each morning they would have tea together before heading out to their recycling route. Jake had proven to be not just helpful but genuinely good at the work, and their daily earnings had increased dramatically. You know what I noticed? Zara said as they sorted through their latest collection behind a downtown restaurant. What's that? Jake asked, carefully separating aluminum cans from glass bottles. You organize everything. Even the way you arrange stuff in the cart. It's like you can't help but make everything neat and efficient. Jake paused, looking at his handiwork. I guess I do that. It just feels right. Makes me think you had an office job before. Something that required attention to detail. Maybe, Jake said, but something flickered in his expression. Sometimes I get these flashes of something. Like sitting at a desk, but it's fuzzy. I can't quite grab onto it. Zara noticed his frustration. Don't force it. The memories will come back when they're ready. What Zara didn't see was the brief moment of panic that crossed Jake's face. Some memories were starting to surface, and they were making him nervous about what else he might remember. They were interrupted by a commotion from the restaurant's back door. A chef in a white uniform was arguing loudly with a delivery driver. "I ordered 30 pounds of salmon, not 20, the chef was shouting. "My customers are expecting our weekend special." "Look, buddy, I just deliver what's on the truck," the driver shot back. "Take it up with the distributor." The chef threw his hands up in frustration as the driver left. He noticed Zara and Jake watching and looked embarrassed. "Sorry about that," he said. "Restaurant business is crazy sometimes." "Sounds like a problem with your supply chain," Jake said without thinking. The chef looked at him with interest. "You know about supply chains?" Jake paused, realizing he had spoken without thinking. I guess I know a little bit." "What would you do about this situation?" the chef asked. Jake thought for a moment. "Well, you have a few options. You could contact the distributor directly and demand they send the missing fish immediately. Or you could find a backup supplier for today and switch permanently if this happens again. Or you could modify your menu for tonight and use this as an opportunity to try something new that might become even more popular." The chef stared at Jake with amazement. That's actually really good advice. Are you in the restaurant business?" "I don't know," Jake said honestly. "I'm having some memory issues." "Memory issues or not, you've got good business sense," the chef said. "I'm going to take your advice and try something new tonight. Thanks." As they walked away, Zara looked at Jake with curiosity. "That was impressive. You definitely know about business." "I guess I do. It just came naturally." Jake seemed troubled by this. "What if I'm remembering things I don't want to remember?" "What do you mean?" "What if I was someone I don't like? What if I was mean to people or selfish or—" "Jake," Zara interrupted gently. "Whatever you were before, you're a good person now. I can tell." "How can you be so sure?" "Because I've seen how you treat people. You're kind to everyone we meet. You share your food, you work hard, you care about my problems even though you have bigger ones. Good people don't fake that kind of behavior." Jake felt some of his anxiety ease. "Thank you for saying that." "I'm not just saying it. I mean it." Their conversation was interrupted by a small voice calling out from a nearby alley. "Excuse me, miss?" They turned to see a young girl, maybe 8 or 9 years old, standing hesitantly near the mouth of the alley. She was thin and dirty, wearing clothes that were too big for her. "Are you okay, sweetheart?" Zara asked, immediately concerned. "I'm hungry," the girl said simply. "I saw you had food earlier." Zara's heart broke. She recognized the look in the girl's eyes, the same desperate hunger she had felt many times herself. "What's your name?" "Emma." "Where are your parents, Emma?" "My mama's sick. She's been sleeping for 2 days and I don't know what to do." Zara and Jake exchanged worried glances. "Can you show us where your mama is?" Zara asked. Emma led them deeper into the alley, to a makeshift shelter built from cardboard and tarps. Inside, a woman lay on a pile of blankets, clearly very ill. Her face was flushed with fever and she was barely conscious. "Oh no," Zara whispered. "Emma, how long has she been like this?" "Since yesterday. She won't wake up to eat or drink anything." Jake knelt beside the woman and gently checked her pulse. It was weak and rapid. "She needs medical attention right away." "I can't pay for a doctor," Emma said, tears starting to fall. "Don't worry about that," Jake said firmly. "We're going to help." Zara looked at him with surprise. They barely had enough money for themselves. But she saw the determination in Jake's eyes and knew he was right. They couldn't walk away from this. "I'll call an ambulance," Zara said, pulling out her old phone. "No," Jake said. "That will take too long and they'll ask too many questions. My car is parked a few blocks away." "Your car?" Zara stared at him. "You have a car?" Jake froze, realizing what he had said. I think I do. I remember having keys." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a set of expensive-looking car keys. "These were in my suit pocket." "Jake, if you have a car, why didn't you mention it before?" "I forgot about them," he said, which was partially true. "I haven't needed to drive anywhere." The truth was, Jake had remembered having the keys yesterday, but he was afraid of what else he might remember if he went to find his car. But right now, a sick woman needed help more than he needed to protect his secret. "Stay with them," Jake said. "I'll go get the car." 15 minutes later, Jake returned driving a sleek black sedan that made Zara's eyes widen. The car was clearly expensive, far more than someone who picked recyclables for a living could afford. "Jake," she said quietly. "Whose car is this?" Mine, I think. The keys worked and it felt familiar. He opened the back door. We'll talk about it later. Right now, let's get Emma's mother to the hospital. They carefully helped the sick woman into the car, with Emma holding her mother's hand. Jake drove smoothly through the city traffic, clearly comfortable behind the wheel. Zara found herself studying his profile, wondering what other secrets he might be hiding. At the hospital, Jake took charge in a way that surprised Zara. He spoke confidently to the nurses, handled the paperwork, and somehow managed to get Emma's mother seen quickly despite their lack of insurance. How did you do that? Zara asked as they sat in the waiting room with Emma. I told them I would take care of the bill, Jake said simply. Jake, we can't afford hospital bills. I'll figure something out, he said, and something in his voice made Zara think he might actually be able to do just that. 3 hours later, the doctor came out with good news. Emma's mother had a severe infection, but with antibiotics and rest, she would be fine. However, she needed to stay in the hospital for at least 2 days. What about me? Emma asked, looking scared. You'll stay with us, Zara said without hesitation. Are you sure? Jake asked quietly. Of course. She's just a child. We can't leave her alone. Jake smiled at her with such warmth that Zara felt her cheeks heat up. You're amazing, you know that? That night, Emma slept on the mattress while Zara and Jake made do with blankets on the floor. But before going to sleep, Jake surprised them both by pulling out his phone and ordering Chinese food for dinner. You have money for takeout? Zara asked. I found a credit card in my wallet, Jake said. I figured I should use it while it still works. As they ate, Emma chatted happily about her life. Despite her circumstances, she was a bright, cheerful child who made both adults smile with her stories and observations. You two are married? Emma asked innocently. No, Zara said quickly. We're just friends. But you take care of each other like married people do, Emma observed. Smart kid, Jake said with a grin. What makes you think that? The way you look at each other. And how you both wanted to help my mama without even knowing us. After Emma fell asleep, Zara and Jake sat outside on the fire escape, looking out at the city lights. We need to talk about the car, Zara said gently. I know. And the credit card. And the fact that you seem to know about business and hospitals and a lot of other things. Jake was quiet for a long moment. Some things are starting to come back. Little pieces. But it's confusing and some of it doesn't make sense. Like what? I remember sitting in meetings. Expensive restaurants. A big office with windows overlooking the city. But I also remember feeling empty, like nothing I did mattered. That doesn't sound like a bad person, Zara said softly. Doesn't it? What if I was one of those rich guys who doesn't care about anyone but himself? What if I was the kind of person who would walk past a little girl like Emma without even seeing her? But you didn't walk past her. You helped her. Because I'm with you. Maybe you're making me a better person than I really am. Zara turned to face him. Jake, listen to me. I've known truly selfish people. They don't worry about whether they're good or bad. They just take what they want. The fact that you're concerned about this tells me everything I need to know about who you really are. Jake looked at her with such intensity that Zara felt her breath catch. What if I remember everything and I have to go back to that old life? What if I can't stay here with you? Then we'll deal with that when it happens, Zara said, though the thought made her stomach clench with anxiety. I don't want to lose this, Jake said softly. Whatever my life was before, I don't want to lose what we have now. You won't lose me, Zara said, meaning it with her whole heart. No matter what happens, you won't lose me. Jake reached out and took her hand. Promise? Promise? They sat together in comfortable silence, holding hands and watching the city sleep. Neither of them noticed the figure watching from the street below, or the camera that captured their image sitting together on the fire escape. By morning, Jake's photo would be in the hands of people who had been looking for him for days. People who would soon turn their carefully built world upside down. But for now, they were just two people who had found something precious in each other, sitting under the stars and believing that love could conquer anything. The next morning brought unexpected complications. Emma's mother was recovering well, but the hospital wanted to keep her for another day. Emma seemed happy to stay with Zara and Jake, chattering excitedly about everything she saw in the small apartment. This is so cozy, Emma said, sitting at the small table and eating the breakfast Jake had made. It's like a dollhouse but for real people. Glad you like it, Zara said with a smile. After your mama gets better, maybe we can help you find a better place to live. Really? Emma's eyes lit up. Somewhere with real walls instead of cardboard? We'll see what we can do, Jake said, though Zara noticed he looked troubled. After Emma went to play in the small courtyard behind the building, Zara confronted Jake about his mood. You've been quiet all morning. What's wrong? Jake ran his hands through his hair. I keep having these flashes of memory, more than before. And they're not all good. What kind of memories? Arguments. Angry meetings. Someone shouting at me about money. Jake looked up at her with worried eyes. What if I was involved in something illegal? What if that's why I ended up in that dumpster? Jake, you're letting your imagination run wild. Those could be completely normal business memories. Normal business doesn't usually end with someone unconscious in a dumpster. Zara had to admit he had a point. Okay, let's think about this logically. If you were involved in something bad, wouldn't someone have come looking for you by now? Maybe they think I'm dead. Maybe they want me to be dead. Or maybe, Zara said gently, you're just scared of remembering a life that wasn't as fulfilling as this one. Jake looked at her with surprise. What do you mean? You said you remembered feeling empty before. Maybe your old life was successful but not happy. Maybe you're afraid of going back to that. Jake considered this. You might be right. But what if I don't have a choice? What if I have responsibilities I can't ignore? Their conversation was interrupted by Emma running back inside, excited about something she had seen. There's a man outside asking about you, she said to Jake. He has a picture. Zara and Jake exchanged alarmed glances. What kind of man? Zara asked. A fancy man in a suit. He showed me a picture and asked if I'd seen this person. It looked like Jake but cleaner. Jake's face went pale. Someone's looking for me. Maybe it's family, Zara said hopefully. Maybe people are worried about you. Or maybe it's something else, Jake said grimly. They moved to the window and peered down at the street. A well-dressed man in an expensive suit was talking to neighbors, showing them something on his phone. Even from 3 floors up they could see he was professional and persistent. He's going door to door, Zara observed. He's serious about finding you. I need to go, Jake said suddenly. I need to leave before he gets to this building. Jake, no. If this person is looking for you, maybe you should talk to them. Maybe they can help you figure out who you are. What if they're not here to help? Jake asked. What if they're here to hurt me? Or worse, what if they hurt you because you've been helping me? The thought of Zara being in danger because of him made Jake's stomach turn. I won't let that happen. Where would you go? Zara asked. You don't have anywhere else. I'll figure something out. I always do. Jake paused, realizing what he had said. I think I always do. I feel like I'm good at solving problems. Emma looked between them with confusion. Why would you leave? The man seemed nice. Sometimes nice-looking people aren't actually nice, Zara explained gently. Like my dad, Emma said matter-of-factly. He seemed nice to other people but he was mean to me and Mama. That's why we left. Both adults looked at Emma with sympathy. This little girl understood more about dangerous situations than any child should have to. Exactly like that, Jake said. Which is why I need to go. No, Zara said firmly. We're in this together. If you're going somewhere, I'm going with you. Zara, I can't ask you to do that. This is your home, your life. This apartment isn't my life, Zara said. It's just where I sleep. You're my life now. Jake stared at her, his heart pounding. Zara? I mean it, she said, her cheeks flushing but her voice steady. These past few days have been the happiest I've been in years. I'm not giving that up. What about Emma? We can't drag a child into whatever this is. Her mother will be out of the hospital today. We'll make sure they're safe first. Jake looked at this amazing woman who was willing to give up everything for him, and felt his chest tight with emotion. I don't deserve you. That's not for you to decide, Zara said simply. A knock at the door made them all freeze. It was firm but polite, the knock of someone who expected to be answered. Mr. Carson? A voice called through the door. I know you're in there. I just want to talk. Jake's face went white. Carson. That's my name. Jake Carson. You remember? Zara whispered. No, but it sounds right. Jake moved away from the door. I don't know who that is, but I don't want to find out. Mr. Carson, my name is Richard Stone. I work for your father. He's been very worried about you. My father? Jake whispered to Zara. I have a father? Everyone has a father, Zara whispered back. The question is whether he's someone you want to see. Please, Mr. Carson. I just need to know you're safe. That's all. Jake looked at Zara, then at Emma, who was watching with wide eyes. He made a decision. I'm fine, he called through the door. Tell my father I'm fine, but I need more time. Time for what, sir? To figure things out. There was a pause. Mr. Carson, your father is very concerned. You've been missing for 5 days. He just wants to know you're safe. I said I'm fine. Sir, I need to see you in person to confirm that. I'm sure you understand. Jake looked at Zara helplessly. She could see the conflict in his eyes. Part of him wanted answers, but part of him was afraid of what those answers might be. Jake, she said quietly, maybe you should talk to him. At least find out what happened to you. What if it changes everything? What if it doesn't? Jake took a deep breath and moved toward the door. Mr. Stone? Yes, sir? I'll talk to you, but not here. Meet me at the coffee shop on the corner in 10 minutes. Come alone. Of course, sir. Thank you. They listened to footsteps retreating down the hallway. Jake turned to Zara with fear in his eyes. What if this is it? What if after I talk to him I can't come back? Then we'll deal with that, Zara said, though her heart was breaking at the thought. But Jake, you need to know who you are. You can't run from your past forever. I can try, Jake said with a weak smile. No, you can't. And you shouldn't. Whatever you were before, you're a good person now. Hold on to that. Jake pulled her into his arms, holding her tightly. I love you, Zara. I don't know if I've ever said that to anyone before, but I love you. Zara felt tears spring to her eyes. I love you too. They held each other for a long moment, both afraid it might be the last time. Emma watched them with the wisdom of a child who had seen too much. You'll come back, she said confidently. People who love each other always find their way back to each other. How do you know that? Jake asked. Because that's what love means, Emma said simply. It means you don't give up. Jake smiled at her and ruffled her hair. You're pretty smart for a kid. I know, Emma said with a grin. As Jake prepared to leave, Zara grabbed his hand. Promise me something. Anything. Promise me that no matter what you learn about your past, you won't forget who you are right now. You won't forget us. I promise, Jake said and meant it with his whole heart. He kissed her gently, then headed for the door. At the threshold he turned back. If I'm not back in 2 hours, take Emma and go somewhere safe. Use the money from the recycling to get a bus ticket out of the city. Jake. Promise me, Zara. Promise me you'll be safe. I promise, she said, though she had no intention of leaving without him. Jake nodded and left, his footsteps echoing in the hallway. Zara and Emma stood at the window, watching as he walked down the street toward an uncertain future. He'll be back, Emma said again, taking Zara's hand. I hope so, sweetheart, Zara said, squeezing the little girl's hand. I really hope so. Down on the street, Jake walked toward the coffee shop, his mind racing. With each step, more memories were surfacing. A large house, expensive cars, business meetings, and a feeling of constant pressure. But also loneliness, arguments, and a sense that nothing he did was ever good enough. As he approached the coffee shop, Jake saw a man in a suit waiting outside. The man looked relieved when he spotted Jake. Mr. Carson, thank God. Your father has been worried sick. My father? Jake repeated. Tell me about my father. Richard Stone studied Jake's face carefully. You really don't remember, do you? Some things are coming back, but it's still fuzzy. Who am I, Mr. Stone? Really? You're Jacob Carson, heir to Carson Industries. Your father is William Carson, one of the most successful businessmen in the state. Stone paused. And you've been missing since you stormed out of a board meeting 5 days ago, saying you were done with everything. Jake felt the pieces clicking into place and his heart sank. He wasn't just wealthy, he was from a world so different from Zara's that it might as well be another planet. What kind of business is Carson Industries? Jake asked, though he was starting to remember. Real estate development, mostly. Your father has built half the commercial buildings in the city. Including the ones that displaced low-income housing? Stone looked uncomfortable. Business is business, Mr. Carson. Your father has always said that. Jake closed his eyes, more memories flooding back. Arguments about projects that would hurt poor families. His father's indifference to the people displaced by their developments. His own growing discomfort with the family business. I remember now, Jake said quietly. I remember why I left. Your father is hoping you'll reconsider. He needs you, Mr. Carson. The business needs you. What about what I need? Jake asked. I'm not sure I understand. Jake looked back toward the building where Zara and Emma were waiting. I need to think about this. Of course, sir. But perhaps you could come home while you think? Your father is very worried, and frankly, this neighborhood isn't safe for someone like you. Someone like me? Someone with your background. Your responsibilities. Jake felt anger rising in his chest. You mean someone with money? I mean someone with a target on their back because of their family's success. Is that what happened to me? Did someone hurt me because of my family's money? Stone hesitated. We're not entirely sure what happened to you, sir. But yes, it's possible. Jake nodded slowly. I need 24 hours to think about this. Mr. Carson, I really think you should come home now. Your father. My father can wait one more day, Jake said firmly. I'll call you tomorrow with my decision. Sir, I really must insist. Mr. Stone, Jake said, and his voice carried an authority that surprised even him. I said I need time to think. That's not a request. Stone nodded reluctantly. Of course, sir. I'll tell your father you're safe and that you'll be in touch. As Stone walked away, Jake stood outside the coffee shop, torn between two worlds. Behind him was a life of wealth and privilege, but also pressure and moral compromises. In front of him, in a small apartment with a woman who collected recyclables for a living, was something he had never experienced before. Genuine happiness and love. He thought about Zara's faith in him, Emma's innocent wisdom, and the way he felt when he was with them. For the first time in his life, he had felt like he mattered for who he was, not what he had. Jake Carson had a choice to make, and he knew that whatever he decided would change everything. As he walked back toward the apartment, he didn't notice the black car following him at a distance, or the phone call that Stone made as soon as Jake was out of sight. Yes, sir, I found him, Stone said into his phone. But there's a problem. I think he's gotten emotionally involved with someone. This could complicate things significantly. Jake returned to the apartment to find Zara pacing nervously while Emma sat at the table, coloring in a notebook with crayons they had bought the day before. Thank God, Zara said, rushing to embrace him. I was so worried. I told you he'd come back, Emma said without looking up from her drawing. He loves you too much to leave. Jake held Zara tightly, breathing in the familiar scent of her hair. I'm here. I'm okay. What did you find out? Zara asked, pulling back to look at his face. Jake sat down heavily in one of the chairs. My name is Jacob Carson. My father owns Carson Industries. Zara's eyes widened. Carson Industries? They own half the buildings in the city. Yeah, including some that used to be affordable housing for families like Emma's. The weight of that realization settled between them. Zara sat down across from him, processing what this meant. You're rich, she said quietly. Very rich, Jake confirmed. And apparently, I walked away from it all 5 days ago. Why? Jake rubbed his face with his hands. Because I couldn't stand what we were doing to people. My father? He doesn't care about the families we displace when we tear down old buildings. He just sees profit margins. And you couldn't live with that? I tried to for years. But something changed. I started seeing the faces of the people we were hurting, and I couldn't pretend it was just business anymore. Emma looked up from her coloring. Is that why you helped me and my mama? Because you know what it's like when rich people don't care about poor people? Jake looked at this wise little girl with amazement. You're absolutely right, Emma. That's exactly why. So what happens now? Zara asked, though she was afraid of the answer. I don't know, Jake said honestly. My father's representative wants me to come home. He says the business needs me. What do you want to do? Jake looked around the small apartment that had become more of a home to him than his family's mansion ever had. I want to stay here with you. I want to keep working with you, helping people like Emma and her mother. I want to build something good instead of tearing things down. But, Zara prompted, hearing the hesitation in his voice. But I have responsibilities. People who depend on the business for their jobs. And if I just disappear, my father will find other ways to make money, probably ways that hurt even more people. So you're thinking about going back? I'm thinking about trying to change things from the inside. But I don't know if it's possible. Zara reached across the table and took his hand. Whatever you decide, I'll support you. Even if it means I can't be here as much? Even if I have to go back to that world? Jake, if you can use your position to help people instead of hurting them, then that's what you should do. That's who you are. Jake squeezed her hand. I love you for saying that, but I'm scared. What if going back changes me? What if I become the person I was before? You won't, Emma said confidently. Once you really see people, you can't unsee them. My mama taught me that. Smart mama, Jake said with a smile. The smartest, Emma agreed. Speaking of which, can we go see her today? I miss her. Of course, Zara said. We should check on her anyway. At the hospital, they found Emma's mother, Sarah, sitting up in bed and looking much better. Her face lit up when she saw Emma run into her arms. "My baby," Sarah said, holding her daughter tightly. "I was so worried about you." "I was fine, Mama. Zara and Jake took care of me." Sarah looked at Zara and Jake with tears in her eyes. "I don't know how to thank you. Emma told me what you did for us." "You don't need to thank us," Zara said. "We're just glad you're feeling better." "The doctor says I can go home tomorrow," Sarah said. "But I don't know where home is anymore. Our shelter got torn down while I was sick." Jake felt a stab of guilt, wondering if his family's company had been responsible. "What happened to your things?" "We didn't have much," Sarah said with a shrug. "Just some clothes and Emma's toys. The city gave us a few hours to pack up before they knocked it down." "Where will you go?" Zara asked. "I don't know yet. There's a waiting list for the shelters and I don't have money for a real apartment." Jake looked at Emma, who was trying to be brave but clearly scared about being homeless again. He made a decision. "I might be able to help with that," he said. "Jake," Zara said quietly, "you don't have access to your money yet." "No, but I know someone who does." Jake pulled out his phone. "I need to make a call." He stepped into the hallway and dialed the number Richard Stone had given him. "Mr. Stone? It's Jake Carson. I need a favor." "Of course, Mr. Carson. What can I do for you?" "I need you to find an apartment for a family. Something decent in a safe neighborhood. And I need you to pay the first year's rent and security deposit." There was a pause. "Sir, I'm not sure I understand. Your father manages your finances and he's been very concerned about your recent behavior." "Then don't tell him. Use your own discretion fund or whatever you call it. This is important to me." "Mr. Carson, I'm not sure that's wise." "Mr. Stone," Jake said, his voice taking on the authority he was beginning to remember, "I am still a Carson and I'm still your client. I'm asking you to find housing for a family in need. It's not an unreasonable request." "No, sir. Of course not. I'll take care of it immediately." "Good. I'll send you the details." When Jake returned to the room, he found Sarah braiding Emma's hair while Zara watched with a soft smile. "Good news," Jake said. "You're getting a new apartment." Sarah looked up in shock. "What?" "A friend of mine is going to find you a place to live. Something safe and clean for you and Emma." "I can't accept that," Sarah said immediately. "I can't pay for an apartment." "You don't have to. Consider it a gift." "But why? You barely know us." Jake sat down beside Emma, who was beaming with excitement. "Because everyone deserves a safe place to live. Because Emma is an amazing kid who shouldn't have to worry about where she's sleeping tonight. And because someone once told me that we help people when we can." Sarah started crying. "I don't know what to say." "Say you'll let Emma go to school regularly," Jake said. "Say you'll both be safe and happy." "I promise," Sarah whispered. That evening, back at Zara's apartment, they celebrated with takeout Chinese food and ice cream. Emma was practically bouncing with excitement about having a real home, and even Sarah seemed to relax for the first time since they'd met her. "You know what this means?" Emma said to Jake as they finished dinner. "What's that?" "You're like a fairy godfather. You make good things happen for people." Jake laughed. "I don't know about that." "I do," Emma said seriously. "You help me and Mama and you help Zara every day. That's what good people do." Later, after Sarah and Emma had gone to bed on the air mattress Jake had bought for them, Jake and Zara sat on the fire escape again, looking out at the city lights. "You did a good thing today," Zara said. "It felt good. Better than any business deal I can remember." "Is that what you want to do? Help people?" Jake nodded. "I think it is. I think maybe that's what I was meant to do all along, but I got lost somewhere." "You're not lost anymore," Zara said softly. "No, I'm not. I found exactly where I belong." Jake turned to look at her. "I belong with you. Even if your father wants you back in the business?" "Especially then. Because if I do go back, I'll need someone to remind me who I really am. I'll need you to keep me grounded." Zara felt her heart flutter. "Are you asking me to be part of your world?" "I'm asking you to help me build a new world. One where people like Emma and Sarah don't have to worry about where they'll sleep at night. One where business is about helping people, not just making money." "That sounds like a big job," Zara said with a smile. "Too big for one person," Jake agreed. "But maybe not too big for two people who love each other." "I love you, Jake Carson," Zara said, and the name felt right coming from her lips. "I love you too, Zara. More than I ever thought possible." They kissed under the stars, both feeling like they were standing at the beginning of something beautiful and important. Neither of them saw the photographer with the long-range lens capturing their intimate moment from a building across the street. By morning, that photograph would be on the front page of the city's business section, with a headline that would change everything: Missing Heir Found Living in Slums with Mysterious Woman. But for now, they were just two people in love, planning a future together and believing that anything was possible. Tomorrow, Jake said, I call my father. Tomorrow, Zara agreed, we start changing the world. They had no idea how much their world was about to change, or how many people were about to become very interested in their love story. Jake woke up to his phone ringing insistently. The sun was just beginning to rise, and Zara was still sleeping peacefully beside him. He grabbed the phone quickly, not wanting to wake everyone in the small apartment. Hello, he whispered. Jacob, what the hell is going on? The voice was deep, authoritative, and familiar in a way that made Jake's stomach clench. Dad. Don't dad me. Do you have any idea what you've done? Jake stepped carefully over the sleeping forms of Sarah and Emma and went out to the fire escape. What are you talking about? The newspaper, Jacob. The front page of the business section. There's a picture of you kissing some woman on a fire escape in the worst part of the city. Jake's blood ran cold. Someone took a picture of us? The headline reads, Missing Heir Found Living in Slums with Mysterious Woman. Do you understand what this means for our family? For the business? I understand that someone invaded our privacy, Jake said, anger rising in his voice. Your privacy? Jacob, you're a Carson. You don't have privacy. You have responsibilities. Maybe that's part of the problem. Don't start with me. I want you home. Now. I'm not ready to come home. You're not ready? William Carson's voice was incredulous. Son, you've been missing for 5 days and now I find out you've been playing house with some. Careful, Jake said, his voice dangerous. Be very careful what you say about her. Who is she, Jacob? Some gold digger who saw an opportunity? Her name is Zara, and she's the most honest person I've ever met. She didn't even know who I was until yesterday. Oh, she knew. They always know. You're wrong about her. Am I? Let me guess, she's beautiful, she's had a hard life, and she makes you feel like a hero for helping her. Jake was quiet, hating how accurately his father had described the situation. I thought so, William continued. Jacob, I've seen this before. Wealthy young men thinking they can save the world one poor girl at a time. It never works out. This is different. It's never different. Come home and we'll handle the publicity. We'll say you were doing charity work or something. I'm not coming home yet. Then I'll come to you. No. Jake's voice was firm. Dad, I need more time. Time for what? To make more headlines? To embarrass the family further? Time to figure out what I want to do with my life. There was a long pause. What you want to do is run Carson Industries. It's your birthright, your responsibility. What if I don't want it? Then you're not the son I raised. The words hit Jake like a physical blow. Maybe I'm not. Jacob. William's voice softened slightly. I know you're confused right now. But this fantasy you're living isn't real life. You belong in our world with our people. Our people? You mean people who don't care about anyone but themselves. I mean people who understand responsibility. Who understand that sometimes you have to make hard choices for the greater good. Whose greater good? Because it's not the greater good of families like Sarah and Emma. Who are Sarah and Emma? Jake realized he had said too much. Friends of mine. More strays you've picked up? They're not strays. They're human beings who deserve better than what our company has given them. Our company provides jobs for thousands of people, Jacob. We build things. We create value. We also destroy communities and displace families. That's business. That's the problem. William was quiet for a moment. I'm giving you one more day, Jacob. One more day to come to your senses. After that, I'm coming to get you myself. Dad. One day. The line went dead. Jake stood on the fire escape, his hands shaking with anger and fear. He heard movement behind him and turned to see Zara stepping out to join him. That didn't sound like it went well, she said softly. He saw the newspaper. Someone took a picture of us last night. Zara's face went pale. What kind of picture? Us kissing. It's on the front page of the business section. Oh no. Zara sank into the chair beside him. This is bad, isn't it? It's complicated, Jake said, reaching for her hand. But we'll figure it out. Jake, maybe you should go home. This is getting out of hand. I'm not leaving you. You might not have a choice. If your father is as powerful as you say, he can make things difficult for me. He won't hurt you. I won't let him. It's not just about me anymore. What about Sarah and Emma? What about other people who might get caught up in this? Jake had been thinking the same thing. We'll protect them. How? Jake, I pick up recyclables for a living. I can't fight a business empire. You're not fighting it alone. They were interrupted by Emma's voice from inside. Zara? Jake. Is everything okay? Everything's fine, sweetheart, Zara called back. We'll be right in. But as they went back inside, both knew that everything was far from fine. The photograph in the newspaper had changed everything, and they were about to discover just how far-reaching the consequences would be. An hour later, there was another knock at the door. This time it wasn't polite. Open up. City housing inspection. Jake and Zara exchanged worried glances. Housing inspection? Zara whispered. I've lived here for 3 years and never had a housing inspection. It's not a coincidence, Jake said grimly. The inspector was thorough and hostile, finding violations that had never been problems before. The building was too crowded, the fire escape was unsafe, the electrical system was outdated. I'm sorry, miss, the inspector said, not looking sorry at all, but this unit is condemned. You have 24 hours to vacate. Condemned? Zara stared at him in shock. But I've been paying rent. I've never had any problems. Well, you have problems now. 24 hours. After he left, Zara sat down heavily on her bed. This is because of the picture, isn't it? Probably, Jake said, his jaw clenched with anger. My father doesn't like to be embarrassed. So he's going to make me homeless? I won't let that happen. Jake, how are you going to stop it? He's got more power than you do right now. Sarah, who had been listening quietly, spoke up. Maybe we should all leave the city. Go somewhere they can't find us. We can't run forever, Jake said. And I won't let my father drive good people out of their homes. Then what do we do? Zara asked. Jake was quiet for a moment, thinking. We fight back. How? I call a press conference. I tell my side of the story. Jake, that will make things worse. Maybe. Or maybe it will make them better. Maybe if people know what's really happening, they'll care. And if they don't? Then at least we'll have tried. That afternoon, Jake made another call to Richard Stone. Mr. Carson, I was hoping you'd call. Your father is very concerned about the newspaper article. I need you to arrange a press conference for me. Sir, I really don't think that's a good idea. Perhaps you should speak with your father first. I'm not asking for your opinion, Mr. Stone. I'm giving you instructions. What would you like to say at this press conference? The truth. The truth about what? About why I left Carson Industries. About what our company does to families like the ones in this neighborhood. About the fact that my father is trying to intimidate an innocent woman because he doesn't like who I've fallen in love with. Mr. Carson, I strongly advise against this course of action. Then I'll hold the press conference without you. There was a long pause. What time would you like to schedule it? Tomorrow morning. 10 o'clock. I'll make the arrangements. That evening, as they packed Zara's few belongings, Emma asked the question that had been on everyone's mind. What if this doesn't work? What if Jake's daddy is too powerful? Then we'll find another way, Zara said, trying to sound more confident than she felt. But you love each other, Emma said. That has to count for something. It counts for everything, Jake said, pulling both Zara and Emma into a hug. Love is the most powerful thing in the world. Even more powerful than money? Emma asked. Especially more powerful than money. That night, as they lay together in the small apartment for what might be the last time, Zara and Jake held each other tightly. I'm scared, Zara admitted. Me too, Jake said. But I'm not sorry. Whatever happens, I'm not sorry we found each other. Even if it cost you your family? You are my family now. You and Emma and Sarah. People who actually care about each other. Your father might come around. He might understand eventually. Maybe. But I'm not holding my breath. As they drifted off to sleep, neither of them noticed the black car parked across the street, or the man inside making notes about their activities. By morning, William Carson would know exactly what his son was planning, and he would be ready with plans of his own. The battle for Jake's future was just beginning, and it would test everything they believed about love, family, and what it meant to do the right thing. The press conference was scheduled for 10 o'clock, but by 9:30 the small community center Jake had rented was packed with reporters, cameras, and curious onlookers. Zara stood at the back of the room, her stomach churning with anxiety. You don't have to do this, she had told Jake that morning. We can find another way. There is no other way, Jake had replied, straightening his tie. He was wearing the expensive suit they had cleaned and pressed, looking every inch the wealthy businessman he was born to be. It's time people knew the truth. Now, watching him prepare to face the media, Zara felt a mixture of pride and terror. This man she loved was about to risk everything for her, for them, for what was right. Jake stepped up to the podium and the room fell silent. Camera flashes illuminated his face as he looked out at the crowd. "Good morning," he began, his voice steady despite the magnitude of what he was about to do. "My name is Jacob Carson, and I'm here to tell you why I walked away from my family's business 5 days ago." A murmur rippled through the crowd. This wasn't what they had expected. For 27 years, I lived a life of privilege and comfort. I had everything money could buy, but I was missing something essential, a conscience. Jake's eyes found Zara in the crowd, and she gave him an encouraging nod. 5 days ago, I finally saw what Carson Industries really does. We don't just build buildings, we destroy communities. We don't just create profit, we create homelessness. We displace families, tear down affordable housing, and turn neighborhoods into playgrounds for the wealthy. The reporters were scribbling frantically now. This was a bigger story than they had anticipated. I couldn't be part of that anymore. So I left. And in leaving, I found something I never expected to find: real love, real purpose, and real people who showed me what it means to care about something bigger than yourself. Jake gestured toward the back of the room. The woman in yesterday's newspaper is named Zara. She saved my life, literally and figuratively. She showed me that kindness doesn't come from a bank account, that dignity isn't measured in dollars, and that the most important work you can do is helping people who need it most. A reporter raised her hand. "Mr. Carson, are you saying you're giving up your inheritance to be with this woman?" "I'm saying I'm giving up a way of life that was making me complicit in hurting people. Whether I keep my inheritance depends on whether I can use it to help instead of harm." Another reporter called out, "What about your father's reaction to your relationship?" Jake's jaw tightened. "My father has made his feelings clear. He believes that love should be based on social status and financial compatibility. I believe love should be based on character, kindness, and shared values." "Are you planning to marry her?" Jake looked at Zara again, and she saw something in his eyes that made her heart skip. "If she'll have me, yes. I can't imagine spending my life with anyone else." The room erupted in questions and camera flashes, but Jake held up his hand for silence. "There's something else you should know. Yesterday, the city condemned the building where Zara lives, forcing her and several other families out of their homes. This happened less than 24 hours after our photograph appeared in the newspaper. I don't believe in coincidences." The reporters were on the edge of their seats now. This was turning into a major scandal. "I'm announcing today the formation of the Carson Foundation for Community Development. This foundation will work to create affordable housing, support displaced families, and ensure that development serves communities rather than destroying them." "Where will the funding come from?" a reporter asked. "From my personal trust fund to start. And hopefully from other wealthy individuals who want to be part of the solution instead of part of the problem." The questions came fast and furious after that, but Jake answered them all with calm confidence. He spoke about his plans for the foundation, his hopes for changing Carson Industries from within, and his commitment to the woman who had opened his eyes to what really mattered. As the press conference ended, Zara made her way through the crowd to Jake's side. He pulled her close, ignoring the cameras still flashing around them. "You were amazing," she whispered. "Was I? I feel like I just declared war on my own family." Maybe that's what needed to happen. They were interrupted by Richard Stone, who looked pale and shaken. "Mr. Carson, your father wants to see you immediately." "I'm sure he does," Jake said dryly. "Sir, with all due respect, I think you may have just made the biggest mistake of your life." "Or the best decision," Jake replied. "I guess we'll find out." An hour later, Jake stood in the marble foyer of his family's mansion for the first time in 5 days. Everything looked exactly the same, but he felt like a completely different person. The opulence that had once felt normal now seemed excessive and cold. William Carson was waiting in his study, his face a mask of controlled fury. "Sit down, Jacob." "I'll stand." That was quite a performance this morning. It wasn't a performance. It was the truth. William walked to the window, looking out at the perfectly manicured grounds. "Do you have any idea what you've done? The stock price has already dropped 3 points. Our investors are panicking. The board is demanding answers. Maybe they deserve answers. You've embarrassed this family beyond repair." "I've told the truth about this family. There's a difference." William turned around, his eyes blazing. "The truth?" The truth is that Carson Industries employs 3,000 people. The truth is that we've built half this city. The truth is that business isn't a charity, and sometimes difficult decisions have to be made. Difficult for whom? Not for us. We don't lose our homes when we tear down affordable housing. Those buildings were condemned, Jacob. They were unsafe. They were profitable to tear down. That's not the same thing. William moved to his desk, picking up a thick folder. Let me tell you about your girlfriend, Jacob. Her real name is Zara Michelle Thompson. She's been arrested twice for trespassing, once for disturbing the peace. She's never held a steady job, never finished high school, never contributed anything meaningful to society. Jake felt anger boiling in his chest. How dare you investigate her? It's called due diligence. Something you should have done before destroying your reputation for a woman who saw you coming from a mile away. You're wrong about her. Am I? Let me guess, she told you she had a hard childhood. Foster care, probably. Parents died tragically young. She's been struggling to survive, just waiting for a white knight to rescue her. Jake's silence was answer enough. I thought so. Jacob, this is the oldest trick in the book. Beautiful girl with a sob story meets wealthy young man with a guilty conscience. She played you perfectly. You don't know her. I know her type. And I know that right now she's probably talking to lawyers about how much she can get out of this relationship. Zara isn't like that. They never are until they have you hooked. William sat down behind his desk, his expression softening slightly. Son, I understand that you're going through something. Young men your age often have these crises of conscience. But this isn't the way to handle it. What is the way to handle it? Come back to work. Channel your passion for helping people into the business. We can create a corporate giving program, fund some scholarships. But do it the right way through proper channels. While continuing to tear down affordable housing? While building a sustainable business that can support charitable giving for decades to come. Jake looked at his father, this man who had shaped his entire life, and realized they would never understand each other. I can't do that, Dad. Because of her? Because of me. Because I finally know who I am and what I believe in. William's face hardened again. Then you're choosing her over your family. I'm choosing what's right over what's profitable. Same thing. William opened his desk drawer and pulled out a legal document. This is your trust fund termination. Sign it and you walk away from Carson Industries forever. Don't sign it and you come back to work on Monday morning and end this ridiculous charade. Jake stared at the document. His trust fund was worth $50 million. It was his security, his future, his children's future. If I sign this, what happens to the foundation I announced? The foundation dies with your access to funding. And if I don't sign it? You break up with the girl, come back to work, and we never speak of this again. Jake thought about Zara, probably sitting in the condemned apartment wondering if he would choose his family's money over their love. He thought about Emma and Sarah and all the other families who needed help. He thought about the person he had been 5 days ago and the person he had become. There's a third option, Jake said. I'm listening. I take control of my trust fund and use it to create real change. I use my position in the company to push for different policies. I prove that business can be profitable and ethical. The board will never agree to that. Then I'll convince them. Or I'll replace them. William laughed harshly. With what? You own 30% of the company, Jacob. I own 40%. The remaining shareholders will never side with you against me. Maybe not. But I have to try. And if you fail? Then I'll have failed doing something I believe in. William stood up slowly. You disappoint me, Jacob. I raised you to be strong, to be a leader. Instead, you've become weak and sentimental. I've become human, Dad. Maybe you should try it sometime. The words hung in the air between them like a physical barrier. William's face went cold. Get out. Dad. Get out of my house. And don't come back until you're ready to be my son again. Jake felt a pain in his chest unlike anything he had ever experienced. Losing his father's love hurt more than he had expected. But he knew there was no going back now. I love you, Dad. I hope someday you'll understand. I understand perfectly. You've chosen a gold digger over your family. Jake walked to the door, then turned back one last time. Her name is Zara. She's the best person I know. And she loves me for who I am, not what I have. That's more than I can say for anyone else in my life. As Jake left the mansion, he felt simultaneously devastated and liberated. He had lost his family, but he had found himself. Now he had to figure out how to build a life with the woman he loved, with no safety net and no guarantees. Outside, Zara was waiting in the car they had borrowed from Richard Stone. She took one look at Jake's face and knew it had gone badly. "I'm sorry," she said as he got in beside her. "I'm not," Jake said and realized he meant it. "I'm free, Zara. For the first time in my life, I'm completely free." "Free and broke," Zara pointed out. "Free and broke and in love with the most amazing woman in the world. Is that enough?" Jake took her hand and brought it to his lips. "It's everything." As they drove away from the mansion, neither of them saw William Carson watching from his study window, or the phone call he made immediately after they left. "Find everything you can on the woman," he told his private investigator. "Financial records, employment history, criminal background, everything. I want to know what she's really after. And if she's clean? Nobody's that clean. Keep looking until you find something." The war between father and son was just beginning, and Zara was about to become the main battleground. 3 weeks had passed since the press conference, and Jake's life had become a whirlwind of lawyers, reporters, and financial complications. His father had moved quickly to freeze his trust fund pending a legal review, leaving Jake with only the money in his personal checking account. "It's not much," Jake said, looking at his bank statement. They were sitting in a small diner, sharing a meal because it was all they could afford. "Maybe $3,000. "That's more money than I usually see in 6 months, Zara said, trying to make him feel better. "We'll be fine." But they both knew it wasn't true. Finding an apartment had proven nearly impossible. Landlords either recognized Jake's name and wanted nothing to do with the controversy, or they demanded more money than he had available. "I should have thought this through better," Jake said, running his hands through his hair. "I should have had a plan." "You did have a plan. Your father just had a better one." Jake's phone rang. It was Richard Stone. "Mr. Carson, I have some news." "Good news or bad news?" "That depends on your perspective. Your father is willing to reinstate your trust fund." Jake's heart leaped, then immediately sank. "What are the conditions?" "You end your relationship with Miss Thompson and return to work at Carson Industries." "That's not happening." "Sir, perhaps you should consider this carefully. You're running out of money, you have no place to live, and frankly the press is starting to turn on you. Some of the stories are suggesting that you've been manipulated by a clever woman who saw an opportunity." Jake looked at Zara, who was pretending not to listen but clearly hearing every word. "What kind of stories?" "The kind that question Miss Thompson's motives. The kind that suggest she may have orchestrated this entire situation." "That's ridiculous." "Is it? She conveniently found you at your lowest moment. She took you home, gained your trust, and within days you were willing to give up everything for her. She saved my life." "Did she? Or did she see an opportunity and take it?" Jake felt a chill run down his spine. "What are you implying?" "I'm not implying anything. I'm stating facts. Miss Thompson has been struggling financially for years. Suddenly, she meets a wealthy man with memory loss, and within days he's announcing plans to give away millions of dollars. You're wrong about her." "Am I?" "Ask her about the debt collectors who have been looking for her. Ask her about the credit card she maxed out and never paid. Ask her about the loan shark in the East End who's been very interested in finding her." Jake felt his world tilt. "What loan shark?" "A man named Tommy Martinez. Miss Thompson borrowed $5,000 from him 8 months ago. He's been looking for her ever since." "You're lying." "I have documentation, sir. Miss Thompson is in serious financial trouble. The kind of trouble that makes a wealthy boyfriend very appealing." Jake ended the call with shaking hands. Zara was watching him with growing concern. "What's wrong?" she asked. "Zara, I need to ask you something, and I need you to tell me the truth." "Of course. Do you owe money to a loan shark named Tommy Martinez?" Zara's face went white. The silence stretched between them like a chasm. "Zara?" "Yes," she whispered. "I owe him money." Jake felt like he had been punched in the stomach. "How much?" $5,000. Plus interest. "When were you going to tell me?" I was hoping to figure something out before it became a problem." "Before it became a problem?" "Zara, loan sharks don't just forget about money. What did you need $5,000 for?" Zara looked down at her hands. "My friend Jessica was sick. She needed surgery and she didn't have insurance. I borrowed the money to help her." "Why didn't you tell me this before?" "Because I was ashamed. Because I knew you'd think less of me." Jake stared at her, his mind racing. Was Richard Stone right? Had Zara seen him as a solution to her financial problems? "Is that why you helped me?" he asked quietly. "Because you thought I might have money?" "No." Zara's eyes filled with tears. "Jake, I swear to you, I had no idea who you were when I found you. I helped you because you needed help. But once you found out who I was. Once I found out who you were, I fell in love with you. The money, the business, none of that mattered to me. Didn't it? Even a little bit? Didn't you think about how dating me might solve your problems? Zara was crying now. Maybe. Maybe for just a moment I thought about how much easier my life could be. But that's not why I'm with you, Jake. I love you. How can I believe that now? Because you know me. You know who I am. Do I? 3 weeks ago I thought I knew everything about you. Now I find out you're in debt to a dangerous man, and you never told me. I was going to tell you. When? I don't know. When the time was right. Jake stood up from the table. I need some air. Jake, please don't go. I'm not going anywhere. I just need to think. Outside the diner, Jake walked aimlessly through the city streets. Everything Richard Stone had said was echoing in his head. The timing was convenient. Zara had been in serious financial trouble, and then she found a wealthy man with memory loss. Even if she hadn't planned it, even if she really had helped him out of kindness, hadn't the money been a factor in her feelings? His phone rang again. This time it was his father. Jacob, I hear you've had some enlightening conversations today. Did you have me followed? I had you protected. There's a difference. Protected from what? From making the biggest mistake of your life. Son, I know this hurts, but you needed to know the truth about this woman. The truth is that she borrowed money to help a sick friend. The truth is that she's in debt to a dangerous man, and you represent a way out. Jacob, I've seen the surveillance footage. What surveillance footage? From the morning she found you. She didn't just stumble across you, son. She was specifically looking through dumpsters behind expensive hotels. She knew exactly where to find wealthy men who might be vulnerable. Jake felt sick. That's not true. The footage doesn't lie. She went to 3 different hotels that morning before she found you. She was collecting recyclables. That's what she does. At 7 in the morning? Behind hotels that don't usually have recyclables? Jacob, she was hunting. I don't believe you. Then ask her. Ask her why she was behind that specific hotel at that specific time. Ask her if she saw you before she climbed into that dumpster. The call ended, leaving Jake standing alone on a busy street corner, wondering if everything he believed about his life had been a lie. When he returned to the diner, Zara was still sitting at their table, her eyes red from crying. I need to ask you something else, Jake said as he sat down. Okay. The morning you found me. Why were you behind that hotel? Zara looked confused. I told you. I was collecting recyclables. But why that hotel specifically? I don't understand. Zara, did you see me before you climbed into that dumpster? Understanding dawned in Zara's eyes, followed by hurt. You think I was looking for you specifically? Were you? Jake, I had no idea who you were. I found you by accident. But you had been to other hotels that morning, hadn't you? Zara was quiet for a moment. Yes. I hit several spots on my route. Your route. I have a route I follow for the best recyclables. Hotels, office buildings, restaurants. I go where the best stuff is. And expensive hotels have the best stuff? Sometimes. People throw away bottles, cans, sometimes valuable things they don't want anymore. Jake wanted to believe her, but doubt was eating away at his confidence. Zara, I need you to be completely honest with me. When you found out who I was, didn't you think about how being with me could solve your financial problems? I thought about a lot of things, Zara said quietly. Yes, I thought about how much easier my life could be. But Jake, that's not why I love you. How can I be sure? Because I'm telling you. But people lie, Zara. People lie about love all the time. Zara stared at him with growing realization. You don't trust me. I want to trust you. That's not the same thing. Jake looked at this woman he had fallen so completely in love with, and felt his heart breaking. I don't know what's real anymore. I'm real, Zara said through her tears. My love for you is real. But the debt is real too. And the loan shark is real. And the fact that you didn't tell me about any of it is real. I was scared. Of what? Of this. Of you looking at me the way you're looking at me right now. Jake felt torn in two. Part of him wanted to believe her, wanted to trust in the love they had shared. But another part of him, the part that had been raised in a world of manipulation and hidden motives, couldn't stop questioning everything. I think, Jake said slowly, I need some time to figure things out. Time apart? Yes. Zara felt her world crumbling. Jake, please. Don't let your father do this to us. This isn't about my father. This is about trust. I never lied to you. You didn't tell me the truth either. About one thing. One thing I was ashamed of. What else haven't you told me, Zara? What other secrets are there? Nothing. There's nothing else. But Jake could see the uncertainty in her eyes and it terrified him. How well did he really know this woman? How much of their relationship had been built on things left unsaid? I'll get a hotel room for tonight, Jake said, standing up again. We both need to think. And then what? I don't know. Zara watched the man she loved walk away, and felt like her heart was being ripped from her chest. She had been so close to having everything she had ever dreamed of: love, security, a future with someone who understood her. Now it was slipping away because of mistakes from her past and the machinations of a powerful man who wanted her gone. That night, Jake sat alone in a cheap hotel room, staring at his phone. He had Zara's number pulled up, his finger hovering over the call button. He wanted to hear her voice, wanted her to say something that would make all his doubts disappear. Instead he called Richard Stone. I want to see that surveillance footage, Jake said. I'll have it sent to your hotel immediately. An hour later, Jake was watching grainy security camera footage of Zara moving through the city that morning. She went to 3 different locations before finding him, just as his father had said. But watching her carefully, Jake could see that she was genuinely working, genuinely looking for recyclables at each stop. When she found him, her reaction seemed genuinely shocked and concerned. She climbed into the dumpster without hesitation, checked his pulse, tried to wake him up. Nothing in her behavior suggested she had been looking for him specifically. But the doubt remained. Even if she hadn't been hunting for a wealthy mark, even if she had genuinely helped him out of kindness, what happened after she learned who he was? Had the money influenced her feelings? Had she stayed with him at least partly because of what he could offer her? Jake's phone rang. It was Zara. Jake, please come back. We can work this out. I'm watching the surveillance footage. And? You were working that morning. I can see that. But Zara, I keep thinking about everything that happened after. The way you encouraged me to remember my past, the way you supported my decision to confront my father. Did you know that would lead to me having access to my trust fund? I thought it might help you get your life back. Or help you get access to my money? Jake, that's not fair. Isn't it? You were in debt to a loan shark. You needed money desperately. Then you met me. And I fell in love with you. Maybe. Or maybe you fell in love with the idea of never having to worry about money again. You know me better than that. Do I? 3 weeks ago I thought I did. Now I'm not sure I know anything. Zara was crying again. Jake, please. Don't let them destroy what we have. Maybe what we have was never real to begin with. You don't mean that. But Jake wasn't sure anymore. I need more time, Zara. How much time? I don't know. The line was quiet for a long moment. When Zara spoke again, her voice was different. Stronger. Fine, she said. Take all the time you need. But Jake, when you're done letting other people tell you what to think and feel, when you're ready to trust your own heart again, you know where to find me. She hung up, leaving Jake alone with his doubts and his fears. Across town, Zara sat in the condemned apartment that was no longer hers, surrounded by boxes of her few belongings. Emma and Sarah had moved into their new apartment, thanks to Jake's intervention. But Zara had nowhere to go and no money to get there. She looked at her phone, thinking about calling Jake back. But what would she say? How could she prove that her love was real when everything looked so suspicious? How could she fight against a powerful man who wanted her gone and had the resources to make it happen? For the first time since finding Jake in that dumpster, Zara wondered if loving him had been the biggest mistake of her life. 2 weeks had passed since Jake and Zara's separation and both were miserable. Jake had taken a job at a small nonprofit organization, using his business skills to help manage their operations. The pay was minimal, but it kept him busy and gave him a sense of purpose. He was working late one evening when his phone rang. The number was unfamiliar. Hello? Is this Jake Carson? The voice was female, nervous. Yes. Who is this? My name is Jessica Martinez. I think we need to talk. I'm sorry, do I know you? Not me. But you know my friend Zara. And I know you've been told some things about her that aren't true. Jake's heart started racing. What things? Can we meet? There's stuff you need to know. An hour later, Jake sat across from a young woman in a wheelchair at an all-night coffee shop. Jessica was thin and pale, clearly still recovering from some kind of illness. You're the friend Zara borrowed money for, Jake said. Yes. And I'm here because what happened to us, it's not what people are telling you. What do you mean? Jessica took a deep breath. 8 months ago I was diagnosed with cancer. Lymphoma. I needed treatment but I didn't have insurance. The hospital wanted $20,000 up front. Zara said she borrowed 5,000. She did. From that loan shark. But she also sold everything she owned, worked double shifts collecting recyclables, even sold her blood plasma twice a week. She raised $15,000 for my treatment. Jake stared at Jessica in shock. 15,000? She never told you that part, did she? Because that's who Zara is. She doesn't talk about the good things she does. Why are you telling me this? Because I heard what happened between you two. And because I know Zara is miserable without you. She's been staying in the shelter, won't even accept help from me and my family. The shelter? The homeless shelter downtown. She's been there since you guys broke up. Jake felt sick. While he had been staying in a hotel, questioning her motives, Zara had been sleeping in a homeless shelter. There's something else, Jessica continued. The morning she found you? She wasn't supposed to be working that route. What do you mean? I mean she was supposed to be at the hospital with me that morning. I was having a procedure and she had promised to be there. But her usual work partner was sick, and she had to cover his route too if she wanted to make enough money for the week. Jake felt his understanding of that morning shifting. So she was working a double route? Yeah. She was rushing to get through it so she could get to the hospital. She almost didn't stop at that hotel at all, but she saw some bottles in the alley and figured every bit helped. She was going to see you at the hospital? She missed my procedure because she was taking care of you. She didn't get to the hospital until that afternoon, and she was so worried about leaving some stranger alone that she could barely focus on her own friend. Jake buried his face in his hands. I've been such an idiot. You've been manipulated, Jessica said gently. By people who wanted to break you two up. How do you know about that? Because they approached me too. Jake looked up sharply. What? A man named Richard Stone came to see me last week. He offered me money to tell you that Zara had been using you, that she had planned the whole thing. What did you tell him? I told him to go to hell. But Jake, they're not going to stop. They want Zara out of your life and they'll do whatever it takes. Jake's phone buzzed with a text message. It was from Richard Stone. Need to see you immediately. New information about Miss Thompson. Jake showed the message to Jessica. More lies. Probably. But maybe you should go. Maybe it's time to find out exactly what they're trying to do. An hour later, Jake sat in Richard Stone's office, watching the lawyer shuffle through papers with obvious discomfort. Mr. Carson, I have some difficult information to share with you. Let me guess. More reasons why I should stay away from Zara? Stone looked surprised. You don't seem upset by that prospect. I'm tired of being manipulated, Mr. Stone. Just tell me what you have. Very well. We've discovered that Miss Thompson has been in contact with several tabloid reporters. She's been selling information about your relationship. Jake felt a flash of the old doubt, then pushed it down. Show me proof. Stone handed him a file. Inside were phone records showing calls between Zara's number and the offices of 3 different gossip magazines. She called them, Stone said. Multiple times. Jake studied the records. The calls had all been made in the past 2 weeks since their separation. What did she tell them? We don't know the exact content, but several stories have appeared about your relationship, your family, your business. What kind of stories? Stone handed him a stack of magazines. The headlines were sensational. Poor girl's fairy tale romance, billionaire son gives up everything for love, the woman who stole a Carson's heart. Jake flipped through the articles, reading quotes attributed to sources close to the couple. The stories painted Zara as a modern-day Cinderella and Jake as a romantic hero who chose love over money. They were actually quite flattering. This is what you're upset about? Jake asked. These stories make us both look good. Mr. Carson, she's profiting from your relationship. She's selling your private moments to the press. For how much? We estimate she's made several $1,000s from these stories. Jake thought about Zara sleeping in a homeless shelter while he had been staying in hotels. She needed the money. That's not the point. The point is that she's exploiting your relationship for financial gain. No, Jake said, standing up. The point is that you've been lying to me from the beginning. I beg your pardon? I just talked to Jessica Martinez. I know about the $15,000 Zara raised for her friend's cancer treatment. I know she was working a double route the morning she found me because she needed money for medical bills, not because she was hunting for wealthy men. Stone's face went pale. Mr. Carson, I think you're being given false information. Really? Then let's call Jessica and verify her story. Right now. That's not necessary. I think it is. Jake pulled out his phone. In fact, let's call Zara too. Let's ask her directly about these magazine articles. Mr. Carson, please sit down. Let's discuss this rationally. I am being rational. For the first time in weeks, I'm thinking clearly. Jake moved toward the door. I'm going to find Zara and apologize for being an idiot. Mr. Carson, your father won't like this. Then maybe it's time my father and I had another conversation. Jake left Stone's office and drove straight to the homeless shelter downtown. It was nearly midnight, but he had to see Zara. He had to make this right. The shelter supervisor was reluctant to let him in, but Jake's name still carried weight. He found Zara in the women's dormitory, lying on a narrow cot and staring at the ceiling. Zara? She turned and saw him, her eyes widening with surprise and hope. Jake? What are you doing here? I came to apologize. And to tell you I love you. And to ask you to forgive me for being the biggest fool in the city. Zara sat up, tears starting to flow. Jake. I met Jessica tonight. She told me the truth about the morning you found me. About the money you raised for her treatment. About why you were working that route. 6 months later, Jake and Zara stood in the small community center where they had first held their press conference. But this time, instead of facing hostile reporters, they were surrounded by friends and family celebrating their wedding. The ceremony was simple and beautiful. Zara wore a dress she had found at a thrift store and altered herself. Jake wore the same suit he had worn to confront his father, now cleaned and pressed with care. Emma served as flower girl, tossing rose petals with the enthusiasm only a 9-year-old could muster. Do you, Jacob Carson, take Zara Thompson to be your wife, to have and to hold, in prosperity and poverty, in joy and sorrow, for as long as you both shall live? I do, Jake said, his voice strong and sure. Do you, Zara Thompson, take Jacob Carson to be your husband, to have and to hold, in prosperity and poverty, in joy and sorrow, for as long as you both shall live? I do, Zara said, tears of joy streaming down her face. As they kissed, the small crowd erupted in cheers. Among the guests were Jessica, now cancer-free and walking with just a cane, Sarah and Emma in their new apartment, and dozens of people whose lives had been touched by the Carson Foundation for Community Development. The foundation had grown beyond Jake's wildest dreams. What had started as an idea announced at a press conference had become a thriving organization that provided housing assistance, job training, and support services to hundreds of families. Without access to his trust fund, Jake had gotten creative about funding, organizing benefit concerts, applying for grants, and building partnerships with other nonprofit organizations. Zara had proven to be a natural at community outreach, using her own experiences to connect with people who needed help. She had also started a recycling cooperative that provided steady income for dozens of people while helping the environment. They weren't wealthy by his father's standards, but they were happy in a way that Jake had never experienced before. Ladies and gentlemen, the officiant announced, I present to you Mr. and Mrs. Carson. As they walked back down the aisle together, Jake spotted a familiar figure in the back of the room. His father stood near the door, dressed in his usual expensive suit but looking somehow smaller than Jake remembered. Jake and Zara stopped in front of William Carson. For a moment, nobody spoke. Dad, Jake said finally. I didn't think you'd come. Neither did I, William admitted. But I couldn't miss my son's wedding. Does this mean you approve? William looked at Zara, who met his gaze steadily. I don't have to approve. You're adults, you made your choice. But what do you think of our choice? William was quiet for a long moment. I think you're both braver than I ever was. What do you mean? I mean, you chose love over security. You chose principle over profit. I'm not sure I could have done that at your age. Zara stepped forward. Mr. Carson, I know you think I'm not good enough for your son. I thought that, William said carefully. I was wrong. What changed your mind? I've been watching what you two have built together. The foundation, the work you're doing. I've seen the families you've helped, including some families that my company displaced. Jake felt his heart skip. You've been watching us? From a distance. And I've been thinking about what you said. About business serving people instead of the other way around. And maybe it's time for this old dog to learn some new tricks. William reached into his jacket and pulled out a legal document. This is the reinstatement of your trust fund, Jacob. No conditions, no strings attached. Jake stared at the papers. Dad, I don't understand. I'm also proposing a partnership between Carson Industries and your foundation. We provide funding and resources, you provide oversight and ensure we're actually helping people instead of just moving them around. You want to change how Carson Industries operates? I want to try. I can't promise it will be easy, and I can't promise I won't fight you on some decisions. But I'm willing to learn. Jake looked at Zara, who nodded encouragingly. What made you change your mind? Jake asked. William smiled for the first time in months. I met Emma. Emma? Your flower girl. She came to my office last week with a drawing she made for me. It was a picture of a family, her mother, you and Zara. Underneath, she wrote, "This is what love looks like." William's voice was thick with emotion. She told me that you and Zara saved her family, that they have a real home now because of people who cared more about helping than about money. And she asked me if I wanted to help save families too. What did you tell her? I told her I'd think about it, and I have been thinking about it every day for the past week. And I realized that I don't want to be remembered as the man who built buildings. I want to be remembered as the man who built hope. Jake felt tears in his eyes. Dad. I know I haven't been the father you needed, Jacob. I know I've been too focused on business, too worried about money and reputation. But maybe it's not too late to change. It's never too late, Zara said softly. William looked at her with genuine warmth. Zara, I owe you an apology. I misjudged you terribly. You were protecting your son. I understand that. I was protecting my vision of what his life should be. I wasn't protecting his happiness. And now I can see that his happiness depends on being with you and doing work that matters to him. I was wrong to try to take that away. The conversation was interrupted by Emma running up to them, her flower girl dress now stained with cake and punch. Mr. Carson, she said excitedly. You came. Did you see us get married? I did, sweetheart. It was beautiful. Are you going to help us save more families now? William knelt down to Emma's level. Yes, I think I am. Good. Because there are lots of families that need help, and Jake and Zara can't save them all by themselves. You're absolutely right. Emma threw her arms around William's neck, giving him a fierce hug. Over her head, William met Jake's eyes and mouthed the words, "Thank you." Later that evening, at the reception in the same community center, Jake and Zara had their first dance as husband and wife. The song was At Last by Etta James, and they swayed together slowly, lost in each other's eyes. Can you believe this? Zara whispered. 6 months ago I was sleeping in a shelter and now I'm married to the man I love, running a foundation that helps people. Can you believe my father showed up? Can you believe he wants to change the company? I'm not sure I believe any of it, Jake said with a grin. Maybe I'm still unconscious in that dumpster dreaming all of this. If you are, don't wake up, Zara said, pulling him closer. Never. As they danced, they were surrounded by the people whose lives had intersected with theirs over the past months. Jessica was dancing with a young man she had met in physical therapy. Sarah was dancing with Emma, both of them laughing at something funny. Even William Carson was on the dance floor, awkwardly but earnestly dancing with the elderly woman who ran the community center. Look at all this, Zara said, gesturing around the room. Look at all the happiness. All because you climbed into a dumpster one morning, Jake said. All because we found each other. All because love is stronger than fear. They kissed as the song ended and the small crowd applauded. Emma ran up to them, still full of energy despite the late hour. Zara, Jake, when are you going to have babies? Emma? Sarah laughed, chasing after her daughter. You can't just ask people that. Why not? They love each other, they're married, babies come next. Jake and Zara looked at each other and laughed. Maybe someday, sweetheart, Zara said. When we're ready. I hope I can babysit, Emma said seriously. I'm very good with babies. I'm sure you are, Jake said, ruffling her hair. As the evening wound down, Jake and Zara stood outside the community center, looking up at the stars. A year ago, could you have imagined this? Jake asked. Which part? Being married to a millionaire, running a foundation, or having your father's support? All of it. Any of it. Zara considered this. A year ago I was just trying to survive each day. I never let myself imagine being truly happy. It seemed too risky. And now I know that the biggest risk is not taking the chance on love when it comes along. Jake pulled her close. I love you, Mrs. Carson. I love you too, Mr. Carson. They walked hand in hand to their car, a used sedan they had bought together with money from the foundation's fundraising efforts. It wasn't fancy, but it was theirs. Where to now? Jake asked as they got in. Home, Zara said simply. Home was a small apartment they rented in the same neighborhood where they had first met. It wasn't much bigger than Zara's old place, but it was clean and comfortable and filled with love. As they drove through the city streets, they passed the Carson Industries building, now lit up with a new sign, Carson Industries and Foundation, building communities, building hope. Think it will work? Zara asked. Your partnership with your father? I think it will be challenging. I think we'll disagree about a lot of things. But I also think we both want the same thing now, to make a positive difference. And if it doesn't work? Then we'll keep doing what we're doing. Helping people one family at a time. Together? Always together. They pulled into their parking space and walked hand in hand to their apartment. Inside, Emma's drawing from the wedding was already hanging on the refrigerator, a picture of all of them together under a rainbow, with the words "Love Wins" written in crayon across the bottom. She's right, you know, Zara said, looking at the drawing. About what? Love does win. Maybe not always easily, maybe not always quickly, but eventually love wins. Jake wrapped his arms around his wife from behind, looking at the drawing over her shoulder. I used to think that was naive. Now I think it's the truest thing in the world. What changed your mind? You did. You showed me that love isn't just a feeling, it's a choice. A choice to see the best in people, to help when you can, to believe in something bigger than yourself. Is that what I did? That's what you do every day. You choose love over fear, hope over despair, connection over isolation. Zara turned in his arms. I couldn't do any of it without you. You were doing it long before you met me. I just gave you more resources. You gave me more than resources. You gave me partnership. You gave me someone to share the work with. They kissed softly, still amazed at their good fortune. Outside, the city hummed with its usual energy, but inside their small apartment, everything was perfect. So what's next? Zara asked as they got ready for bed. Tomorrow we start planning the new housing development with your father's company. Next week we launch the job training program. Next month we break ground on the community garden. Busy schedule. The best kind. As they settled into bed together, Jake thought about the journey that had brought them here. A year ago he had been a different person, wealthy but empty, successful but unfulfilled. Finding Zara had changed everything, not just because he loved her, but because she had shown him who he could be. Jake. Zara's voice was sleepy. Yeah. Thank you. For what? For choosing me. For choosing us. For choosing love. Thank you for saving my life. I just pulled you out of a dumpster. You did so much more than that. You showed me what life could be. What I could be. We showed each other. Jake kissed the top of her head. Sweet dreams, Mrs. Carson. Sweet dreams, Mr. Carson. As they drifted off to sleep, neither of them dreamed about money or status or what other people thought of them. They dreamed about the families they would help, the communities they would build, and the love that had made it all possible. Outside their window, the city slept on, full of people who needed hope, needed help, needed to believe that love really could conquer all. And in the morning, Jake and Zara would wake up ready to prove that it could. Because sometimes, the most powerful force in the world is two people who love each other enough to try to make the world a little bit better. And sometimes that's enough to change everything.